for the moms, or for the kids. I seriously, my brain, I cannot get words to connect. It's a problem. The afternoon projects, we had the 3 main areas, downstairs, bonus room, and then like all in here, right? Yeah, all in here. So we are thinking, and Kelly was so sweet, Kelly lives right around the corner, literally like you could hop the fence, and her house is probably like right down the street right there, but you have to drive around. We're thinking for 2 seconds, just when it's your turn for mom's class, that we might just shoot over to Kelly's house. Just take a car or two and zip over there right after lunch and just be on time. And then all the other kids who are here can just stay in their little projects and stuff like that. If you want to take a baby over there, I'm sure that's totally fine. But you kind of just see how you feel about that. Because if not, what it's going to look like is 20 kids in here doing a project, and then we're in the front room, in the piano room, and I'm sure it's going to probably get a little like crazy loud and stuff like that. Or we're on the patio, and I'm not going to be on the patio from 12:30 to 2:30. Or we're in the library where you may not be able to sit.
So
Okay.
So I have a question. You have 3 groups. You're having core and level learning downstairs?
Okay, for which part? For the
For
afternoon?
exploration station.
Yes, so for exploration stations, it's not really broken, it's more broken into just sheer numbers. So it's basically 6 and under, I think is what it is, right?
Oh, okay.
Is that how we put it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a really old sheet or.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
broken
it
down
might be.
0 to 6, 7 to 10, and 11 up.
Yeah. Just because of sheer, we tried to just
So
break
you
it
got
up
3
number
groups,
wise.
so then you're saying the moms don't have anywhere to go. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Got
And
it.
then,
Okay.
just to kind of have it be a little bit more focused if you needed to, because we were just worried if it's like, oh, my kids are downstairs and they're just like, we want our mom, you know, like, then we can just say, oh, she's, you know, over at her mom's class, just right around the corner. Like, they couldn't just run upstairs and grab you, which is, I get, like, we can do that or not do that. So I'm just kind of feeling it out and seeing what you guys think.
About it, we can revisit it at Q&A.
Yeah, right. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Because in my mind, I was like, oh, it'd be a lot easier. It'd be so quiet. Kelly's house is just big. We'd have space. There'd only be 6 or 7 of us, and the other of us would be here anyway, doing the project stuff. And then the next session would, you know, flip-flop. Okay, thanks. Let's have one pregnant one. Just pick it up for another. Thank you. Okay. I think that's probably pretty good. Let's go with that. Should we go, so now that we're like 7 hours over? Sorry about that. Yeah, we'll just go fast. Are you recording, Lynn? Okay, great. Okay, let's move in just for a second and go through the 3 main areas that we just walked through. So the morning family sharing station, what it will look like, and then the mid-morning peer group section, and then the afternoon, whatever that's called.
We're going to call it exploration station.
Project group, oh yeah, sorry. Okay, Stacy,
Okay, let's not go on that slide yet.
let's not go on this slide yet.
All right. So we're going to give you guys just a little like sampler of what this family sharing station is like.
We barely even knew you guys were back there.
So good. I think that was the really. So we're going to give a little sample. We're just going to read from this little story. This is simulating that first week. We'll be reading a story together. So we're just going to pretend this was the first week and we're reading the story. It's called Bunnies on the Go. Vacation time is here, and so pack your bags. It's time to go. Bunnies will be traveling far. Every bunny into the car. Bunnies driving through the streets, safely belted in their seats, up a highway, down a lane. Now bunnies, all aboard the train. Bunnies hear the clicks and clacks of iron wheels on iron tracks. And see the smoke? Is this a dragon? Here we are, climb in the dragon. On and on the draft horse walks, while wheels squeak and Grandma talks of all the fun they'll have in In fact, her bunnies get to ride a tractor. Bunnies plowing straight and slow. Up and down the fields they go. The ride is over much too soon. Now bunnies up in the
Air
balloon. Bunnies looking from up high. Watch the country passing by. Through the sky the bunnies float. Now bunnies jump into the boat. Across the lake the bunnies glide. A wet and windy bunny ride. The shore is here. The anchor strikes. Now bunnies climb onto your bikes. Bunnies pedal over the hills, chasing, racing, taking spills, jumping ditches, getting stuck. Now bunnies hop into the truck. Bouncing over the mountain road with its tired bunny load, but not too fast. It's dangerous. Now every bunny on the bus. Bunnies sing and bunnies yawn as the bus rolls on and on. A good night's sleep is necessary, but wake up and board the ferry. Across the bay from shore to shore, bunnies watch the seaboard soar. But bunnies, now it's time to grab your things and jump into the cab. Bunnies wave goodbye to planes that they've seen as the taxi races down a highway, up a lane. Now bunnies, time to board the plane. Happy bunnies on the go, watch the tiny world below. The bunnies love to ride and roam, but best of all is coming home. All right, thank you. All right, family, what did that book make you think about? What questions do you have? What about ice cream? Okay, Gabrielle?
The wagon, really good pioneers, and I wondered what's the difference between a handcart and a wagon.
Okay, good. Ellie?
Who and why invented the other one?
All right, thank you. All right, so we're gonna fast forward to next week.
And when we're doing the family sharing stations, by the way, guys, we may have the same book going in 4 different areas. So it will be a little less than so we don't have 65 kids when we're reading the book and doing the sharing. We're probably gonna do that, just, you know. It will look no different for you guys, other than where you would go, that's all. I need that little nook back there for the
Performance.
Yeah. Who knew?
All right, that was a great week of learning lots of fun and amazing things. Boys, do you want to start by sharing what you learned?
We found out store-bought ice cream is processed, has additives, and is more expensive.
All right, thank you guys. Gabrielle?
competition is about what are the differences and similarities of hand carts and wagons. And so I found what was different and the same about the two. And what was different was hand carts were quick to build and wagons were slow to build. And hand carts were on low demand and wagons were on high demand. And the hand carts were less expensive and the wagons were more expensive. And the hand carts were pulled by people and the wagons were pulled by oxen. And then the hand carts could carry fewer supplies and the wagons could carry more supplies. And the hand carts were able to go on rougher terrain, and the wagons were limited to big trails. And I think why they chose the Roy Handcart Company chose hand carts was because it would be easier and they're quicker to build and not so expensive, and yeah, and they could go on better tracks. And the similarities were both were used to travel west, both had wheels, they both were made of wood, they both carried supplies, and they both used physical labor for movement. And my ancestors were in the Willie Handcart Company, and they used hand carts. Okay, so this is a hot air balloon that I grew. It isn't very good, but it's the point across. So, we don't really know why the hot air balloon was invented. At least I couldn't figure out anything that said. But it was probably more just for like entertainment and leisure for like the rich people who had so much money to spend. And so the Montgolfier brothers, I think I'm sorry, created it, which sounds familiar. The first hot air balloon is made of silk and lined with paper. They released a test balloon in like a marketplace in France. It didn't have any passengers and it was successful, so they continued like developing it, and they launched the first hot air balloon to carry passengers, and it was decorated with symbols of the King of France. And Benjamin Franklin and George Washington actually observed this launching, and so Benjamin Franklin wrote this about it in his journal. We observed it lift off in the most majestic manner. When it reached around 250 feet in altitude, the intrepid voyagers lowered their hats to salute the spectators and could not help feeling a certain mixture of awe and admiration. So that's where I got to learn about hot air balloons.
Thank you guys. So, who knew we could learn so much from Buddies on the Go?
So I have a question.
Yes.
Real quick.
Uh-huh.
So each family is going to have to repeat their presentation 4 times?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to wait for question then?
Go ahead.
Answer? Okay, so we're all going to read a book. The whole school is going to read a book. And then our family picks what we pulled out of that book to present. I
Right.
mean, it could have been ice cream. I mean, anything. It doesn't, just whatever they think is.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So the first week, when you family sharing station, is it not a family sharing station on the first week? And because you're reading the book, or I'm really confused.
yeah, so
The
the
second
first
week looked like a family sharing, but the first week's not.
Yeah, so on the first week, that's what we were kind of trying to simulate really quick, is that we'll read a book as a group, or probably like Leah was saying, we're going to divide it into smaller groups so it's easier to see the book and keep people's attention. But we'll read it the first week out loud together.
As a whole school,
Okay.
like the
The
same
same
book is going on for
And
Yeah.
you guys pick that.
So
you're
then,
gonna rotate and read the book. I don't get it.
no, just, so we'll have like 3 copies or 4 copies of the book. Read it in that group
Okay.
just once. Read it through one time. And so then,
You guys read it?
yeah.
Okay.
And then you'll have like, maybe we'll pass out index cards, or you guys bring some or whatever. Write down your question. And then it's up to each individual family whether they want to, like they each had different questions, and so we let them just make a poster about what they wanted to do. But maybe you want to all focus on ice cream, and everybody does ice cream, and so it's just, and then, I mean, we talked about like bringing samples, and you could bring some homemade ice cream or help people, you know, you got 15 minutes to do it however you want to do it when it's your turn.
When it's your turn. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, since we're really short on time, I'm gonna just kind of walk through this real quick. So I've got to, and I will send this to you. I'll convert it to a PDF, and so I'll just send it a PDF. It's front and back. It's the who, what, why, the who, what, where, when, why, and how of family sharing stations. So, but this is for the whole family participates in this. Okay. And this is just what it looks like. It's totally up to it's as unique as each family. So there's no particular, it has to be this certain thing, but they're going to have these 3 common components, which is there's going to be a question that's been asked or a group of questions, and then you know, sometime on your own time you're going to go into some in-depth discovery, finding out the answers to the question, and then you'll present. So that's the basic components of what they look like. And then where they happen, we've got the different rooms that we already walked through. Then that happens right after devotionals from 9:15 to 10:30. And there's about 5 minutes in between as we go. Why we do it, and this is to help foster a shared family learning experience, gives the moms a chance to set the example and tone for the day, and allows us then experience a variety of teaching and learn lots of great, fun, cool trivia, fun things. So, how, and you know, you can take time when I send this out, you can read through it in more details, but it's basically you're asking questions from the story, discovering. Let's just give some examples so you can look at. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. Then the presentation, I gave some sample things of types and styles to present, and they might not seem like they make sense, but like sales, you know, you could learn about something and try to sell us an item, you know, or you know, this business plan or strategy, maybe it sparks an idea and you want to go and have a lemonade stand because you learned about lemons or whatever. It's just kind of, I want everybody to think outside the box, have fun with it, and we really want to encourage each family member to participate in some way. So that's family sharing stations. Is that my end of my slide?
That's it.
I have a
Perfect. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so this one book that we're reading, that, and then we're gonna go through all the families before we start another book. So
Right.
like
There's
every,
one book per session.
oh,
each
per
session
so
has
then
a
there's
book.
4 sessions or 2? 4?
There's 4
Right.
regular sessions, then we've got our holiday
Okay.
session and our
Per 6-week session.
Okay,
Yeah.
for 6 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, so just real quick, week 1, all together reading the book like Stacy
And then we
demonstrated.
have 5 weeks.
Week 2, I present. Week 3, you present. 4, 5.
Same book.
Same book, but totally different stuff. And then
Right.
week 6,
A new book.
Week 6 will be we'll be preparing for because on that following Monday, that's when we have our family showcases. Remember, we talked about that. So we'll be using that week as a preparation week. So
during that 9:15 hour.
anything that we need to, like, if a group's doing a skit or we need to make a banner or whatever, that's when we'll do that together.
So do you prefer that families do their sharing on the same thing? Like your kids did a variety of different things? Just
Totally
whatever?
your choice. I mean, I would probably to think about, I would probably try it both ways. You know, do a group thing and then give a chance for an individual thing. You're going to get an opportunity to do it each session. So you'll do this 4 different times. So, you know, be creative, have fun with it.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I will.
And so the only thing that we're thinking tonight, just based on the sheer numbers, is that we might just on week 1, instead of originally we're gonna be like, hey, devotional, yay! Week 1, everyone stays downstairs and Stacy or whomever's gonna read a book to 77 people at one time. So we're starting to think, I think it'd be a little bit more effective if we were like, hey, let's break up into some sharing stations and Stacy and 3 other families are on here. Lori and 3 other families are in there, blah, 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 and we're all reading at the exact same time. Does anybody feel like super strongly about either way? Okay, we'll just go ahead and make that executive decision then, thank you.
After you read the book, the first week when we just read the book, are you going to stop and ask them what What did that make you think about? So they can answer. I just think it'd be fun for my kids to hear what other people, you know, how it was so different and how everybody's thinking different things, and then later to see what they presented on after they heard them talk about. I don't know.
It
Is that
depends.
part of
It'll
it?
depend on the time because
Okay.
the other thing, and we didn't really mention it, but that first week there's going to be an opportunity. I don't know when we had the original packet, we talked about the session summary, and that first week you're going to present about an ancestor. Does anyone remember us talking about that? So that's when that'll happen, is after the story. Like, so after the story, we'll pass out cards. You can write down your question, that whatever's floating around your mind, get it written down. Then we'll share the ancestor thing. I mean, if it looks like we've got enough time, then we could probably read out loud questions to spark ideas. But
Okay, so they're writing. I missed the whole question thing. They write down a question about the book.
Just to
Right.
remind them.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I
Just
missed-
to remind themselves, right?
yeah,
Like it's
Right.
for them to take
Just like
home.
notes,
yeah.
like
Okay, I guess that was it. I just was worried taking them home afterwards and say, "Remember that book a really long time ago? Do you remember what it made you feel like, or what?"
no,
did you...
yeah, no, you're
I would
gonna.
want to hear the question right away. Okay,
Right,
sorry,
yeah.
I missed the whole writing the question down.
So we were actually gonna suggest maybe each kid have like their own little aha journal or some sort of just little notebook that they can just have. And then maybe you as a mom wanna just have something like that too. Cause you're gonna probably wanna write down your little kid questions. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
think we're gonna pass out cards per se, cause it's really you guys that are gonna, but you can share them,
Okay.
right, Stace? You
Yeah.
can share the questions that people come up with. And then the ancestor part though, of that first week is literally like 1 minute, 2 minutes per family.
Right.
Really, I mean, it's a super. My grandpa came over from Italy in 1915 and he blah, 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 you know, and I liked learning about him because, do you see what I'm saying?
And that's per family, just one
Yeah, it's like
minute.
2 minutes.
And that's the first week.
Just
we
the
need to
first
be
week.
preparing
So
the
that'll be-
ancestry.
But not anything major, just some little, what I just said. Just
Yeah,
a
we'll have a
statement,
little
snippet.
like instruction, or prepare this in the newsletter that we'll just send out, because the newsletter will come out a week before. So, did you have a question, Carolyn?
That was my question.
Okay. All right. So I think we're ready for peer group.
Okay, let's just blow through this one too, because this isn't, peer groups we know. Okay, our purpose kind of in this is just to kind of break it up. Most of the peer groups that we've broken them into all have about the same amount of kids, and in the like 11 to 13 amount of kids per class. So just so you guys know that. We also were kind of thinking that positive peer pressure in some ways is really, really good. And do you guys know what I mean by positive peer pressure? There's peer pressure and then there's positive peer pressure. I just think this is important to know. This is a fast example. My 9-year-old Peyton writes like 6-inch letters and they're massive. You would think he's in kindergarten, honestly. Until he went to Cub Scout camp about 6 months ago and went, "Mom, did you know that kids write really small? Like they can fit the whole word in that space." And I'm like, "Oh, they can. Who would have thought?" I mean, I'm not going to say anything to him and force him into it. So he saw that in his peers and went, "Do you think I can write that small too?" Next thing you know, you look at his writing, it literally was overnight. 6-inch letters to now like microscopic. You can't even read it. Just an example, this is kind of what we're hoping to encourage in a positive way during this time. Okay, 6-week sessions are going to be a lot like more, we're not going to exhaust a topic. We got kids that are love of learners and core that are like bam, bam, to all these different like subjects and stuff. So we're trying, that's why we're keeping them 6 weeks, power pack, leave them wanting more. Don't leave them wanting like, "Oh, it's too much, it was horrible." And then this is how they can kind of get a variety too. Did they even know? They don't even know what they don't know. So we're trying to give a little exposure and some variety to all different new topics. Okay, everybody kind of know, I'm gonna probably send this one out too, but just so you guys know, core phase, which is what we're dealing with from about 0 to 8, it's like play. That's how their interests are. Then you kind of have this love of play where they want a buffet style, like hands-on projects, still playing, but they want more of a little bit buffet. Does that make sense? Then around 8 to 10, it's called love of sampling, and they're talking about like concrete projects, hands-on activities, like real life stuff. They're starting to kind of get a little less play, but they still want that hands-on. So just so you know, keeping in mind with whatever you're kind of in, teaching the first session. And love of producing, about 10 to 14, they want to produce. They want something tangible, whether it be like a report or a huge structure that they're going to build for a play. This is where you want to teach strategies and like the process for learning. Does that kind of make sense in there? And then, of course, scholars would be usually about 14 and above, and that's more in-depth mentorship, Socratic discussions, like just going a little deeper with those guys. You don't necessarily have to have this big hands-on type activity, but we could too. Okay, so then we're talking about passion in the peer group projects. We're just saying, moms, what is it that you like? What is it that you already know? What is it that you would like to know? Share it. That's it. And of course you want to look at the kids' talents, or their interests and stuff too, but this is where we want your passion to shine. And if you sit there and go, I have no idea what I like, here's what you can do. Look at your talented interest survey and see what you checked. Like, what were you interested in? Ask some friends. They'll tell you, oh, don't you see you're really good at this? What do you want to study right now anyway? Because you can turn that, whatever you're studying, or you want to learn about, and just share it with the kids, like simultaneously. Kids' interest study, what about your educational plan, if you have one of those? What can you lead, teach, or inspire with not much more than an hour prep or study a week? We want to emphasize this big time. This is not something that we want every single mom spending 6 hours a week on to try to get ready every single week. This is like, what book do you like? Oh, okay, great. I'm going to share that with the core, the 0 to 2s. That's a cute book. Oh, I'm going to bring that one. Maybe I have a Pioneer bonnet. Done. Do you see what I'm saying? Let's try to keep it to an hour and just go with your passion and whatever you're already doing. What comes naturally, and then, what do you like? Class examples. Okay, so I'm just going to give you just one, but here's a couple. So, for example, I had to teach something like that. I probably have already told half these stories, but let's go with the Archimedes one. It's just because I probably have already told you guys this one, but I didn't know what to teach for my little class that I was doing for a co-op several years ago, and I couldn't think of anything, but I was already in a class where I was I was wanting to learn more about a scientist, and so I had just chosen Archimedes. I had a book, and I was already learning about it. I was already doing my study about it, and all I did was read that chapter in the book and went, oh, Archimedes did this, this, and this. Okay, so this week I'm just going to share that with the kids, tell them what he did and why he was so cool, and retell the story, maybe in an engaging way, and then we're going to do the science project that went along with it. Like, Archimedes is famous for the Eureka and the bath water or whatever. We're going to play around with that, or play around with gold and displacement of water and make things like that. So you kind of just engage them at their level, because obviously I didn't really care to make the little gold chunk and make it into a crown, but my 8-year-old sure loved that part of it. You kind of get what I'm saying? Okay, got it. And then how to create your class. Just decide on a topic, whatever it is, and then you just want to pull in as many resources as you possibly can. We're kind of hoping tonight that we could possibly brainstorm, if we even have time, but you just mention an idea and other moms might say, oh, have you thought about this? Oh, have you ever tried this? Oh, da-da-da-da. Great, you have just a million ideas. One big fat long list of everything you found, because you're going to find 1,000 things, but you can't possibly do in 6 one-hour sessions. And then just pull it all together. Okay, this one looks good, that one looks good, okay, and that's it, done. I put in there consider stations, like if you're going to have a 7 and 8-year-old class, they're a little bit more young, maybe you want to break it up on your day that you're doing it, because you're going to have an assistant mom, and you're sharing whatever, and have 2 different stations going at the same time, where you'll have, 6 kids in one and 6 in another, or whatever that looks like, doing different things, and then we'll kind of switch with each of the moms. That could be a possibility. I mean, the sky's the limit on that. However you think it's going to work best, knowing the learning style of the kids that you're kind of teaching, and then also, mostly the learning style. There was something else I was going to say, and it is done. Okay, that's pretty much peer group, and we're going to be a little bit flexible on this one too. But so remember what I was saying, the 0 to 4s are all downstairs, so those who We have broken them up into 2 different classes, but they're really gonna kind of be one, almost. So just keep that in mind. And then 5 and 6, 7 and 8s together, and then now we're gonna kind of do a little something different. We're gonna do 9, 10s, and 11s probably will all be together. Now, but if your 11-year-old is like, I am not gonna go sit with the little kids because I just am already in scholar phase and loving that, we'll just put them up ahead. But we kind of thought that the 9, 10s, and 11s, after we looked at the numbers of kids and ages and all that, we're gonna keep those kind of together with, like I said, a caveat for if your 11 would like to go on above, but totally great. And then we'll do 12 and above, so more like youth type. Does that make sense? So there's really one less class.
Okay, can you repeat the
Essentially.
ages again?
Uh-huh. So 0 to 4 is down, okay. Really, there's a lead for 0 to 2. And those are just babies, you're reading some books and you're building some blocks, whatever you want to do. There's age 3 and 4. But really, they're all kind of together. Then there's 5 and 6s. There's the cores. Then there's 7 and 8s together, because you notice we're pretty heavy in the 5 and 6, 7 and 8 area. Okay, and then there's 9, 10, and 11.
Okay.
And then it's 12 and above.
So is this gonna change?
It'll change a little bit, but not for the first session. But it will change, yeah, probably soon.
Except that, Taryn, you're gonna be now assisting the 9, 10, 11 instead of doing the 11, 12.
She'll still say as an assistant.
You'll still
but
say it as
just- yeah.
assist, you'll just be assisting at a different age, so there will be 3 moms in that 9 to 11 age.
Okay.
Because we got rid of the 11 and 12. And so Diana, who was leading that one, is gonna be a floater now.
And so we'll have a couple moms floating too, so if it's kind of getting too overwhelming in your class with just 2, there's gonna be moms that are gonna be checking on you and you can be like, oh, we need you, extra hands for 10 minutes during this time because we're doing this big project.
So who's leading that one? Because I was her assistant. If she's not,
Right, so the
So
read
I-
is leading the 9 to 11.
No,
so-
no. It's Becky, yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Does your sheet say otherwise?
That one does.
Okay.
For this one.
I'm pretty sure it's Becky, it was you.
Got it.
Who's the
Roger.
other assistant on that? So has anybody ever assigned?
I am. Well, they just said that I am because I wasn't. I was.
There you
I
will
was
have
assisting
2.
Diana, but okay.
For 9s and 10s, Becky, and then you had Laree as one of your assistants, and now also Taryn. Okay. On that 9, 10, 11. Okay, so if you're thinking that you want your child to, your 11-ish,
Your
want
TBA
to
on
go
that one.
again? Oh, yeah, Laree's.
I don't know how to read it because I wasn't at that meeting.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Anything.
Well,
Yeah.
can I ask a
And we
question
have to
too?
do TBA.
The peer group project. Are they being called different things?
Yeah, I
We
referred
are
to it
right now
wrong.
gonna call them different things.
Yeah.
Okay,
From
so
now
is this
on.
the first hour?
Okay, so I
Second
just got done
hour?
talking about the second hour.
So
The
now we've
10:30
covered the
project.
morning.
The exploration.
No,
Just
she talked
the
about the
peer
morning side.
groups. This is the mom passion group. The
Okay.
moms teaching, leading,
I'll worry about that.
whatever you want to do. But
Yes, I know what
that's,
I'm doing.
Okay.
we're just calling
But
it peers
so right
because
after
we're broken
this,
up in
that.
age.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Here I put.
That was when I backed up.
No, that's okay. I know you're.
All right, so now we just had lunch, yay, and we rang the bell, and now we're into the 3 different projects.
And so we're calling them exploration projects instead of.
And that's the one after lunch.
That's one after lunch.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we good? Are you guys all clear as much over there?
Okay, so I know that this part is probably the part that's the most confusing, so I hope that I can
Oh, it's
give you a little bit of understanding of what it is, and if not, then we can talk more questions about it afterwards. So the exploration project is student-led. So this is like the morning we talked about was the mom's passion. This is the student-led part. So the moms are kind of going to be there to just guide, facilitate, make sure they have materials that they need, remind them, help them stay on task a little bit. But for the most part, moms are hands-off here. So I'm going to kind of go through how I would do it, and we'll go from there. So the first thing I did is I chose the topic, and that's where the talent and interest survey came from the kids, was we wanted to see where their interests were, because we want it to be student-led, so we want it to be something that they were interested in. So I took the age group that I'm going to be leading, which is the the littles, which is 9, 10, something. No, I have the
No,
9.
You're the juniors,
The juniors. I have the
What is the
juniors.
breakdown on those?
6 and under,
Littles are 6 and under.
Yeah, littles are 6 and under.
7 to 10.
Juniors are 7 to 10.
Yep. And then 11
Seniors
and
are 11
over
and
is senior.
So I have the juniors, so I have the 7 to 10-year-olds. And for the record, there's 24 of those.
There's a lot.
24 littles, and then there's 15 seniors. So I have the juniors. So I looked at the list, and out of the 24 people, 15 of the kids picked that they wanted to learn about baking, and that was the biggest one. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna do baking. So, yeah. So on the first day, I want to come kind of prepared to inspire them to want to learn about baking. Because the first day is the most mom-led day at the beginning of it. So I've reserved a whole bunch of books at the library that talk about baking. I've got recipe books for kids. I've got just stories. So I might start my day off reading a story about baking or share, and then, so I'll probably read a story. That's probably how I'm going to start because I love books. So I'll read a story about baking, and then I know I'm going to pick one of the kids that I know wanted to learn about baking, and then just kind of focus in on them for a second and say, what is it that you really wanted to learn about baking? And then kind of spark a discussion with the kids about baking and see what it is that they wanted to learn, where they wanted to go with it, what they already know about it, maybe any experiences that they've had with baking. And then I'm going to bring some supplies. So I brought just some weird things that most people might not see in their houses. I don't even know what this is, but I have it. I think it's a jelly bean.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is.
And
So I'm going to bring some different supplies for baking, and just some some traditional stuff, some different things. And because I have recipe books, I'm also going to have maybe some different ingredients out there. And then so after I do my first beginning part of it, I'm going to let the kids go. I'm also going to have not just baking supplies down there, but I'm going to have some craft things, because maybe they want to draw a picture of the cake that they're going to decorate. Or maybe I'm going to have some books out there so that they can start making a recipe book. So the idea when you choose your topic is it has to come from different angles. So, with baking we can do chemistry, we can do math, we can do writing, we can do art. Maybe they want to decorate a cake, and so they're going to, the whole prettiness of the art and displaying of the art of the cake that they're going to do. So you kind of want it to be able to come from different ways. So I'm not just going to have my baking supplies down there. I'm going to have, like I said, art supplies, whatever it is that I think might inspire something that first day. And then they're going to go to town on it. And we would like this section the first time so that we can use your kitchen and your oven and your
so that's the kind of thing I
whatever.
need to know. That's
So
what we're down.
we want this section first, so that they can have access to doing stuff like that. So one mom will be in charge of starting it off, but the other moms that are down there with you are going to have responsibilities too. You need to have one that's going to be a photographer and that's taking pictures of the kids, because when a mom focuses on what a kid is doing, they're going to want to do more of it. That behavior that you notice is a behavior you're going to see. And then we're going to also need one that's going to be in charge of taking notes, so that if we don't have the supplies this week for a project that they want to do, we get those supplies next week. Because we're not going to go, here's the thing that's going to be the biggest thing about these projects, is that that Leah has the hardest time with, is that if we don't have the supply right here today, you cannot run around the house finding that supply. We need to write it down and we need to get it next time. Because one, it's going to be disruptive, but two, it also teaches delayed gratification, that they can build on something later.
Anticipating it.
And anticipated it, and maybe that will make them come with it themselves too. But so that mom that's writing down all this stuff that, oh, we need to get this next week because this kid wants to make this, that mom is then going to go check the supply closet to see if we have it first, and if not, start asking moms, do you have this? Can we bring it in? There's also a budget that mom can also make sure that they can go to the store and get it too. So that's the basic of it. That's really logistically what the day is going to look like, or I mean the part of it. Then that's the first day. But then the next day when we come back, oh wait, I gotta go back. At the end of it, you want to gather everybody together, because at the end of every group, you need to have a sharing time. And that's where anybody who's created something can share. Now, if my theme that the kids have chosen right here is baking, and somebody has done something about robots, if they've created something about robots, we're going to let them share. Anytime they've created something they can share. So this is all about creating things, even if it's not necessarily towards the thing. Because we're hoping that they'll see somebody that shared something about baking, and then they'll go, oh, I want to get in on that next week, and then they'll come back and they'll want to do it next week. So it can be shared, anything that they've created. But if they haven't created anything and they just played the whole time, no sharing. Does that make sense, that part? Okay. And then, okay, so then the next week when you come back, you have to do a meeting first. So you start your meeting off by saying, oh, so-and-so, remember you said that you wanted to do this. Well, I got your such and such ingredient for it. And you kind of remind them where they ended off last week. I want to just, so you share some of this. If they've worked at home since they've been done, they can talk about that. Then they share their plans. Maybe you have a new story that you want to read that you found, or somebody brings something in that they want to do because maybe they baked something at home and they want to share it. So it's just an opportunity to kind of bring it all back together. And then you dismiss them with their purpose so that they know where they're going and that they've been reminded of what they're going to do, and then they let them work. So that's the second part of the day. And then you bring them back again at the end of the day to do a little bit of sharing, and kind of let the child do what they do. Like they can ask people for questions, they can show what they've learned, or not what they've learned, but what they've created and what they've done. Okay, so that's the basic layout. So the first, you'll have a meeting to start off with, then they'll work, and then they'll come back and have a meeting to share. That's the overall. And this is a 2-hour time period. And because we just had lunch and everybody's been playing, they should be okay with not needing a play time at the beginning of it. Now that was my age time, so sometimes like the younger ones, you might have more play time. And really, okay, so let me go into these things. So I talked about how to choose a topic, how I did. The next 6 weeks, you might find that the kids here, like if you're leading or you're assisting, you might find that the kids are really interested in that this learning about baking sparks something else, and that's what you want to lead with your next 6 weeks. So whoever's leading that next 6 weeks can take that spark from this first 6 weeks. Or you can take your talent and interest survey that Jeremy put together and pick something off of that. So for the first 6 weeks, you're going to want to go off of that because you've never met these kids before. You have no idea what they're interested in except for what's on this. But the second 6 weeks and third and fourth 6 weeks, you might find that, oh my gosh, these guys are really interested in this. Let's take it on and go do something else with what they sparked here, or you might need to go back to that. I already talked about how to introduce a topic. It could be as simple as bringing in just something new. It could be a field trip. I don't know logistically how it can be, but throwing it out there. Field trips could be. It could be a guest speaker coming in. It could be, I don't know, be creative. And then I talked about our group time, first meeting, then our work time, then our second meeting. Okay, go to the next one. So I want to talk about some of the things to avoid, some things to think about. Just, the biggest thing is to not impose a topic on the group. So yeah, I picked baking, but I'm really not imposing it on them because I went by what their interests were. I might feel like that first 6 weeks that I might be imposing it on them because they might have already forgotten what they did, and I don't know. So we'll see how it goes with that, but I hope, just don't impose. Don't impose anything on them. Let them study their topic however they want. Bring in newspaper articles, bring in things. Don't say, like I like this one right here, don't stand over the kids that are working with clay and say, oh, don't you want to make a cupcake with that? Don't you want to do this? Don't try to narrow their don't micromanage it, and don't narrow what they're doing. Just kind of let them go where it is. And then I love it how it also says the children should take their investigation in whatever direction they like.